Hey guys, I thought I'd talk about the Pro League Grand Finals, which was last night. Went into the Net Cafe again to commentate with Moltrap and Diggity, as it turned out. I wasn't actually expecting to do that. What happened is I just turned up, got on Vent, and apparently Clazout wasn't available, unfortunately. It would have been good to have him around. And managed to get my stream up and running, and things weren't lagging too badly. So I pitched in. As it did turn out, the commentary itself was a bit out of sync. I felt my own commentary was very improvised and not very well informed. I hadn't really prepared for it. I hadn't really looked up stats or anything on any of the players. So I thought I'd at least do a bit of a summary of the match, which was really exciting. Now that I have had a chance to think about it, and obviously have seen all the games. OGN Sparkies versus Samsung Khan, of course. The 7-match epic, which actually turned out to be a 5-match walkover for Samsung. First match, Later versus Hades. Again, nobody had really heard of Hades. I certainly hadn't ever seen Hades play a game before, and Later have been doing very well recently. Later, of course, playing Terran against Hades' Zerg on the map Katrina. Now, that was an interesting one. Katrina is a map that I would have thought the Zerg player had a lot of opportunities on, but what actually happened is that Later teched up really quickly, got his fast expand, and then went straight to science vessels and straight to dropships. And in the meantime, Hades was spreading himself really thin with real quick tech himself. He went straight to Hive. He didn't make many lurkers at all. And double expanded by the looks. I mean, he expanded at the top left on Katrina as far away from the Terrans as possible, and also expanded again at the 12 o'clock. So he had 2 expansions going, and he was really trying to keep them under wraps while not really doing any harassment and not really, slowing down his tech and building a lot of units at the same time. And Later really punished him for that. Later had the dropships in play as soon as he got them, and he ticked up to them really quickly. And after a big push out, he just used the cliff next to Hades' base with his tanks, and really had a good plan. OGN really planned that very well, I think, and Later took that one really easily. But when it came to game 2, Stork versus Luxury, well, I think it was the other way around. Stork really put a lot of preparation to that, and it reminds me of the Stork of old, where Stork was really just cruising through the OSL until he met Jadong, and then again until he met Flash. But Stork is capable. He's capable of really good play, and I really enjoyed his performance on that map. It was Stork's Protoss against Luxury's Zerg on Andromeda, as you know. And Andromeda is a map which has been picked as a map which is a little bit imbalanced for Zerg, interestingly enough. Coffee is awesome. That aside, Stork went for the much talked about Reaver Seer combination, which Protoss just seems to be using almost every case on that map. I saw Jangby go like standard Zealots, Dragoons, and he did really well. I'm not sure, I think it was against a lesser opponent recently, maybe in the WC qualifiers or something like that, OSL Incrude. I can't remember what the situation was, but he demolished his opponent. But Stork went for something which Luxury surely would have practiced for and predicted, and Luxury seemed like he had an answer for it, but his answer just wasn't good enough. Stork's use of Reaver's Disruption Web, absolute class. The aim with the Disruption Web was awesome. He just put them in a perfect wall, as Diggity mentioned, like a cone shape around the Reavers when they landed to take out expansions, and it meant that the Hydralists couldn't move into the perfect range to take out the Reavers, and if they moved too far past the Disruption Webs, they'd already be dead from all the Scarab shots. So that was fantastic, and the 5 Stargates, wow, that was amazing. Lots of Corsairs, and eventually tons of carriers, and despite a massive number of Devourers and Scourges, Luxury just couldn't break that, and Stork did very well. He played calmly. He played without, the nerves of being in a Pro League finalist team, I thought, and you could see it on his face. He looked very determined. He looked very sure of himself, and that's really dangerous if you're Stork, because Stork has the skills. He's got the game sense, he's got the mechanics, he's got the micro, he's got the lot to be a good player. But I mean, as we've seen in some other situations, he chokes in individual leagues. Not really sure, what the psychology is there, but unfortunately he's failed to deliver. So let's move on to the next game, which was the 2 versus 2. The game was on Hannibal, and it was a cutthroat game, just barely lasted 5 to 10 minutes, and unfortunately, Sparky's got it in the neck. They got taken out really early. What happened there is the Samsung team sent some zealots to yellow space a lot quicker and a lot more effectively, as it turned out, than the Sparky's team were able to send units to the Zerg player on the Samsung team. Now, I forget the names, guys. The names not too important for my little talk, so I'm just going to refer to them as the Samsung and Sparky's teams. But Samsung was able to defend their Zerg player much more effectively than OGN were able to defend their Zerg player, who was yellow. I do remember that. And I feel like just the unit timings, getting the zealots in quicker, and yellow getting Zerglings out to defend quick enough, it was microscopic timing, and that's what it came down to in a 2v2 like that. So Sparky's managed to get it in the neck, as I said, and Samsung went up 2-1 at that point. But then being 2-1 up, it was 5-Bit Hero versus Gogo on Wuthering Heights, and I was predicting that to be a long game full of vultures and tanks, as we usually see on Wuthering Heights, and fair enough. I mean, that's what that map is known for, and that's what you're meant to do. Gogo started like a weak half wall in front of his natural, and went for Command Center before Factory, which is a bit of an unusual Terran build against other Terrans. Really, I mean, it doesn't give you too much of an economic advantage, and at the same time it delays your factory, so it kind of makes you vulnerable to two different things. I mean, it doesn't put you ahead against, obviously, 14cc, and it doesn't put you ahead against, you know, people that go factory first, and it doesn't necessarily put you ahead of people that go factory first and then expand later, because, as we saw, I mean, the harassment got the better of him, and 5-Bit Hero quite ballsy going for 2-Port Wraith. And I'm not sure whether it's because he scouted Gogo first. I can't remember whether he scouted the position, but I doubt it. I mean, he would have had that planned, knowing that Gogo would have thought, I mean, this was a real mind game that was going on, and that's what interests me. Gogo would have thought, okay, 5-Bit Hero will know that it's going to turn into a big game with vultures and tanks. He's wanting to get an advantage over me somehow in terms of that. He knows that I'm going to be too practiced to fall for something quick, so I'm going to go for a faster command center than him, get the advantage for the mid game, and maybe Samsung team, like in coaching and so forth, predicted that kind of mindset from the OGN team, the Sparky's team. And with that, 5-Bit Hero moves out with, you know, a bunch of wraiths. Really just puts the hurt on that Sparky's base, and I thought he was going to get a command center right after the wraiths, but I was wrong. He kept up with double factory and set the tanks down. In hindsight, I agree, that was actually a much better idea than what I would have done, which is to put the command center down. He did eventually put the command center down after the tanks, but he didn't need it. The tanks got there into position. He had a bunker up. Bunker very important, because the other player will move out with SCVs to attack your tanks with support of his own units, and take out your units, but with the bunker there it really helps, and 5-Bit Hero took that, and then, well, running into the sea, pants off, everything, amazing ceremony. I didn't really know where he was going with that ceremony, to be honest. I mean, I was just watching, I was like, what? Then he just jumped into the sea, and I'm like, wow. I figured that he probably wasn't going to be picked for the ace match, given the fact that he just, like, saturated himself, and I don't know, maybe he was just cooling off. I don't know. Is it hot in Korea? I'm in New Zealand, I wouldn't have a clue. And then Chalrange versus Jangbi on Coliseum. I thought that was going to be a longer game as well, but Chalrange really desperate to get an advantage over an opponent that I think he was a bit intimidated by. He put down that Nexus very fast. Jangbi went 4-gate. That was it. Jangbi took him out, and Samsung took it 4-1 over OGN Sparky's. I don't really have much to say about that particular game. You know, I'm not a Protoss versus Protoss expert, unfortunately. I find the matchup somewhat interesting. But as it happened, you know, Jangbi either just predicted what Chalrange was going to do, or had some really good sense of what was up when he scattered around with his probe. Maybe he just saw it in Chalrange's build that Chalrange is going to go for either some kind of fast tech or fast expand, and he picked that. He went all in with 4-gate all in, so to speak. So yeah, congratulations to the Samsung team, and thanks for everybody who tuned into the event and tried listening to us. Hopefully it wasn't too out of sync and you managed to get some enjoyment out of that commentary. I had a really good time myself. And looking forward to Flash versus Jadong tonight. So might be coming back to you with some more, another talk, more coffee tomorrow. If I find the final tonight is really inspiring, and hopefully it is, Jadong versus Flash, gonna be an amazing epic. And otherwise, you know, this is Vaul. Keep watching the commentaries and subscribe too. It's really cool if you guys subscribe. It gives me a bit of a kind of a warm feeling to know that people are subscribing to my stuff and checking it out and supporting me. So I appreciate that. Otherwise, see you later.